Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. It's fall where I live. All of a sudden the sky is gray. The temperature is only in the upper 50s in Fahrenheit, and we're all getting bundled up very suddenly. And I kind of love it. It feels like a time of going inward and reflecting and taking a look. And I notice it's only 2 months until the Eating Peace process, the immersion program, happens, when people will come together for a more intensive approach to this inner work around compulsive eating, emotional eating, anything to do with eating. It's really stress eating, anxious eating, but the life of examining and inquiry and taking a look at what happens on the inside of us that causes us to respond in the world to food. I used to be so crazy with food, and it looked like I was just insane. You can think about, there's a human being just eating from one end of the city to the other, in my car, going to places, kind of almost in a panicked feeling. Now, not everybody experiences intense binges like that, but I would have these intense binges. And then other times when I would be just graze eating, kind of slowly. And then other times when I'd simply overeat at a meal and feel very negative and critical about myself afterwards. And they all kind of corresponded to different emotions and sensations around this process of being with food and saying yes to it and then saying no to it in just the right balance. I noticed that there was a lot of similarity that I had with relationship, where I would say yes and yes and yes and kind of overextend myself or feel the need to be extremely reliable or be seen as somebody helpful and bend over backwards. And then I would want to shut down and tight because I would do too much for people. But there was just some similarities I saw in my response to the world. What was happening with food and eating is the same as some other ideas I had about genuine intimacy and being in contact with people and spending alone time. So I wanted to share with you something interesting that happened in the past few days for me. Somebody very, very close to me, my first husband, the father of my children, died this year. And it was only 2 months ago. So that was a huge change and a shift in life, something very permanent. Death and dying makes a big impact on one's life often. And of course, there's many stressful ideas and thoughts. And there's a lot of returning that's been happening on listening to some old recordings, looking at old pictures, going through things with my children. And so this is something kind of big and expansive that's happened in our lives, in the lives of this family. And felt very close, even though he was my first husband, and now both of us are married again. We still have a very genuine kindness and loving attention for each other and sharing life. And now he's gone. So that happened. And then just in the past week, I came across, by sorting through some things that needed to be filed, I came across an old, angry and upset and critical letter from a friend who just cut me off out of her life. And what I didn't remember in there was that she basically suggested that I had an eating disorder. Which, of course, why am I here talking to you, and why is this Eating Peace? Is because I understand deeply and have been heavily in the throes of an eating disorder in my life. But I have found a sense of peace and relaxation and rest with food that is nothing like it once was. And that's been going on for 20 plus years. An absence of the extreme behaviors with food and eating. And this friend is within the past 20 years. And I thought, she was saying that I had an eating disorder. So I forgot that this was even in the letter when she was sharing her upset. And what was interesting is it wasn't even directly to me. It was her talking about me to someone else. And I just happened to have this printed out email. So interesting, that I saved. So I was kind of like, oh my God, I remember that. It's been quite a few years. Wow, that is so mean. And within the same few days, another friend got upset and sent me a Facebook message because I canceled a meal date with him. So when I looked back at it, I could feel this fluttering on the inside. I could feel a sense of stress. What I generally felt was kind of like it was a kind of an apathy of like life is kind of hard, sort of sad. Look at all the gray weather coming in, and so you don't really feel like doing anything. I feel sort of low energy. My attention didn't necessarily turn to food and eating, because it doesn't ever seem to do that anymore, which is a miracle. But I still felt like, God, I need something to do in my life. I want, maybe I'll go to the movies, and maybe I should just go on a bike ride. But there was a sense of malaise or disappointment, sadness, and even despair. And my mind was skipping around to the different images of the loss of connection with people. Loss. And I didn't quite catch this overwhelming sense of having loss weigh me down, and I felt even low energy. I was thinking a little bit like, did I eat enough protein, or am I hungry? Is anything going on with that? Maybe I could have some caffeine, So these kinds of things begin to enter the mind, very natural. And as soon as I settled down, it took a while. I settled down and began to move more slowly. Then I could see, there's a lot of images and a lot of stimulation. I am triggered by quite a bit. I have some memories happening here. And I'm seeing the world as proving that disconnection can happen. I'm believing the thought that you can be abandoned. You can be left. People can cut you off. Misunderstandings can happen. They can see you the wrong way. So, what a wonderful thing to just recognize that this is filling the mind, and there's a sense of it proving that that's possible. And to just notice it, because then I can wonder, is that actually true? Am I disconnected in this moment? Am I unloved? Did I do something wrong? Did I screw up those relationships? Did I? Is it bad? Am I bad? Because often a sense of that, like I can't handle it, I'm a bad person, or I just seem to have to go for the food, is kind of underlying, as a way of coping. Who would you be without the thought? That's that amazing question. Who would you be without the thought? It only takes a moment. It only takes a moment to remember to ask and answer that question. You feel stress. Who would I be without these thoughts of stress? And the specific thoughts that I can be abandoned, I can be left, I can do it wrong, I can make mistakes with people. I will become unloved because I screwed up something in a relationship. And that's going on also with food and eating, that I'm unloved and I screwed up with food and eating, and look at me, I'm the wrong weight, and look at the way we do to ourselves. If you had a really good friend, I know I speak often about the inner voices that are talking, but if you had a friend that was saying, I just want to point out what you have done wrong so far when it comes to food and eating and how much you've tried, and with relationships and love and how much you've tried, I just want to point out to you what you should be doing differently in all those areas. That would not be necessarily a very kind friend. Somebody kind would probably hold your hand and say, do you want to sit down for a moment? Would you like to be held for a moment if you feel comfortable being held in someone's arms? Or just sit holding hands quietly? Who would you be without the story? You've made a mistake and you've done it wrong in this moment here, right now, no matter what kind of food you've ever eaten or how you've eaten or what you've done with people that have disturbed them and bothered them and made them react to you with criticism. Who would you be without that story? Right now, it's all you have to do is kind of get the feel of it right now, the experience of what it would be like using your amazing imagination without that thought, without needing to cope in this moment. I love just noticing, do I need to cope with something in this moment? Other than my thoughts, there is nothing threatening. In fact, it's a very quiet day. I work out of my house. It's beautiful the way the gray weather is outside. And I get to be with people one-on-one today quite a bit. It's beautiful. So just noticing, even if you have a busy life and you're out in an office somewhere and you're busy with your family and you have a ton of tasks, it's just that idea of coping with something that's threatening coming from outside in. Is that actually true? Do you really need to? Must you protect yourself? Are you sure? Just noticing the safety of this moment. And then turning the thought around. I can handle it. It's okay that people have their reactions. I haven't screwed up. No matter what I've done with food and eating in my life, which was pretty insane in the past, I am okay right now in this moment. All that eating has been done for very good reasons, as a way to try and make an attempt to get away from panic and anxiety and fear and sadness and the threat of abandonment and emptiness and lack of connection. There's something quite amazing with connecting with food. You're taking food and putting it right inside. Talk about connection. It is becoming one with you. So you're in the motion when you're eating of becoming one with something. But it can be really difficult if you're trying to do that and what you really want to become one with is other human beings, or yourself, your sense of your own thinking, relaxation, becoming one with peace in this moment, which is possible and available. You just sit still and notice, even if your mind is filled with anxiety, stressful pictures, thoughts about people not liking you, or that you did it wrong, you made a mistake, or that you've done it wrong with food. Let's just start again from here right now in this moment. Right now. Are you safe? You could just turn the thought around. I am safe. I am peace. I am awareness and connection. I'm conscious in this moment. I don't have to know what to do next even. I do not have to know what to do next, but I can just take a deep breath, take air in, maybe then food instead of food, and think what else would be very satisfying. Maybe a great connection with a person, honest connection, intimacy, awareness of what my thoughts are, and love. So you can call up somebody, talk to somebody that you care about, that you feel close to. Go get with people. Go to a 12-step meeting. Go to a powerful lecture or an event. It's okay to do these things. Watch something that you can be inspired by. Read. Sit in stillness. You might find that the urge to eat, the urge to soothe or calm yourself down or bring yourself, the energy down in this present moment or become more peaceful using food just relaxes away. It becomes uninteresting. That really can happen the minute you just sort of begin to calm down with your thoughts and recognize, oh, that's what's going on. I had quite a few different things coming to me that I didn't question. I just took in as being critical. So no wonder I was feeling down about that. It's very human. All right. Who would you be without your story? Just turn the thoughts around. It's just my thinking that's not peaceful. It's my thinking that needs something. My thinking, I have abandoned myself. I have criticized myself. I triggered myself by kind of turning up the volume on these stories and remembering them really vividly and having such strong pictures in my head about these people that I cared about and that I felt criticized me or that have left. That was me in my own mind doing that in the moment. And the moment's actually very safe. So we do things like this, look more deeply in inquiry at very common thoughts that come up regularly with people, especially those of us who compulsively eat. Emotional eating. Eating can be a little bit different than drinking alcohol or smoking or drugs. Sometimes we've done them all, but it can be a little bit different feel. And of course, Eating Peace Retreat, where we get to sit in immersion with each other in January, doing that there too, doing strong, beautiful inquiry to really get the feel of it in our bodies, of what it's like to access peace in this moment, to eat peace. I love calling it eating peace, taking in peace, consuming peace. So see if you can sense that today. It might take a much shorter amount of time than you think. All right. Bye, everybody.